Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now, Friday, November 11th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith is back after not feeling great this week, but powering on through and joining us here on the Friday edition of the show. Before we get to the hockey discussion, as always on this show, Remembrance Day, Veterans Day on both sides of the Canada-U.S. border. So we acknowledge the men and women who, of course, serve overseas, and the troops and everyone that pays the price, pays the sacrifice for our freedom and our ability to talk about NHL betting on a show like this on a daily basis. So definitely take that moment to acknowledge those that obviously serve overseas and make sure that our freedoms are upheld. Alex, good to have you back with us today.
Yeah, great to be back. And like I said, it was an interesting night last night. We were talking about some of the different things that happened. I mean, most notably Jack Eichel getting the hat trick, returning back to Buffalo. I thought that was great. That had to be such a great moment for him when he turns to the crowd and celebrates, and just knowing that, they were going to be riding him all night long, but he was able to power through it, and Vegas keeps on winning. And, we've seen these teams just going through these streaks right now. New Jersey, Seattle, they played tonight, on a 5-game win streak. It's just interesting to see a lot of teams that we didn't really think were going to have great starts, getting off these hot starts and putting together some nice solid wins in a row. All
right, good stuff. I'm going to change it up because actually I'm firing away college basketball bets right now and sending them out to clients of mine right as we speak. So Thursday recap, I'm going to let Alex have the first word here. Alex, what did you think of the Thursday night slate overall, games that stuck out to you?
Well, like I said, that Vegas-Buffalo game, and that was one of three or four really big blowout scores we saw. We saw the Hurricanes put a 7th spot on Edmonton, saw 8 goals by the New York Rangers. And I think now we're starting to see a lot of teams that were struggling offensively get into that heavy rhythm of scoring in bulk now. The Rangers, we were talking about, the losing streak that they had, and weren't producing anything offensively. Now they're starting to get goals in bunches. That's when that team becomes dangerous. Carolina, same thing. We know we can rely on the back end to do work. And Kochekov being called up, with Anderson now going to miss at least another couple of games is what I'm hearing. So they've got some solid goaltending. Now the offense is picking up again. So I think we're going to see more of that. We're going to see more of these offenses pick up and produce steadily in the goal scoring department.
There's no question. I think you're going to see definitely some signs of that. And definitely last night, definitely some interesting matchups that took place. Look, again, with this Calgary Flames mantra that I've been on, they played well. I mean, you can't really rip them. How can you rip them? I mean, I know they've lost 7 in a row, but especially the 3 games on this road trip. Held a lead against the Islanders, lost in overtime. Back and forth, I thought they carried the play against New Jersey, found another way to lose there, and at times they were a lot better than Boston, and really all over Allmark and the Boston net. And it seems like they aren't scoring, and every mistake they make ends up in the back of their net. So they're in a tough rut right now, but there's no doubt they're going to find themselves out of this funk right now. It's just really a lot of bad puck luck. And that's why Daryl Sutter's not really, losing his temper or anything like that regarding this stretch, Alex. He knows the team's doing a lot of good things. They're carrying play. They've carried the play against the Islanders, the Devils, and the Bruins on all 3 games in this road trip. And to come out of it with 1 out of 6 points to show for it, that's definitely frustrating.
Yeah, it's frustrating. But like I said, we're talking about two pretty good teams here in Boston and New Jersey for the most part. And even the Islanders, they've got, their defense is getting a little bit better. Sorokin's looking pretty good so far. He's in the top 3 for goals saved above average. So, like I said, it's not like they're playing the sisters of the poor. They are, playing top-tier competition and losing. And despite, like I said, they're still being engaged in games. They're not getting completely wiped off the board. And like I said, in due time, the puck luck will bounce their way. They'll get some goals, and they'll get back on the winning track.
Yeah, that's exactly what you got to hope for if you're Calgary. Stick with it, right? Don't panic. Doing a lot. Your game is in a decent spot. Yeah, and eventually things are going to go in the other direction for you. Unfortunately, they did not go that way last night. You mentioned the Vegas Buffalo game. Brutal for Buffalo fans because they were very eager to boo Jack Eichel at every opportunity, and he basically sticks it to them with a hat trick and 4 points in a 7-4 victory in that game, waving goodbye to them too after he scored the hat trick goal. What an eruption for the New York Rangers in the third period against Detroit. 6 goals and an 8-2 victory.
Yeah.
The team was desperate to snap out of their losing streak, and they did it emphatically with an eruption in the third period, beating Detroit 8-2. The Blues get off their schneid. That's back-to-back nights. Teams on bad losing streaks get back in the win column. It was Pittsburgh against Washington on Wednesday, and then last night, St. Louis with a 5-3 win against San Jose. That was a good game for me with the over in that game and also the Blues team total over. I figured, you know what, this is a horrendous San Jose defense right now. If you're not going to bust out offensively, when is it going to happen? Colorado 5-3. I think what's very interesting is the theory went to hell with maybe Philly and Nashville jumping on these two teams coming back from Finland, Colorado and Columbus. That did not happen. The Jackets played their best game by far in a long time, beating Philly 5-2. Devils once again win 4-3. Again, Colorado beats Nashville 5-3. So no hangover from the return home from Finland. The brightest part of the night for me betting wise was taking the Arizona Coyotes plus 245. They were plus 250. I said the Islanders they're playing some solid hockey, but they're not minus 280 type of team. They're just not. And sure, and look, Karel Vejmelka again, Alex. We've been saying it about him lately, playing good hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And the Arizona team really in front of their goalie has been really good. Their penalty kill's been outstanding, believe it or not. The Arizona Coyotes. I think they found an identity. Early in the year we said, what is this team's identity? And I think we're finding it now. Team defense has been solid. You found something in this young kid in goal, Karel Vejmelka, who keeps playing better, it seems. Try to keep games low scoring. Try to play good, solid structure defensively, and it's going to give you a puncher's chance maybe in some games. And that's how they've won some of these games lately, including the big upset over the Islanders last night.
Yeah, and that's the way. That's the way they have to do it. They don't have that offensive punching power to keep up with the top teams of the league. You have to slow the game down, muck it up, control the puck well between the blue lines and the neutral zone, and like I said, and then rely on some quality goaltending. And Vejmelka, you just wonder how long can he stand up and give you quality starts night in and night out because he's facing a ton of rubber. But like I said, the team defense is getting better, so those guys can start blocking some more shots, keep him durable and fresh. Then, Arizona will stand a puncher's chance in a lot of these games as big dogs.
No question about that. Definitely, I think they found their pathway and their formula for winning, the Arizona Coyotes. And last game from last night that I wanted to save for last, it's because, look, he's taking a beating on Twitter. Last night, actually all season with his play, but especially after last night and again this morning, Jack Campbell for the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, obviously this has been a nightmare first month of the season for him after signing the big contract with the Edmonton Oilers, who assumed that this was going to be their opportunity to give themselves the best goaltending they've had in years, because clearly Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen, that tandem was always up and down for them. He's been dreadful, and I hate to say it, but it is only a month. You hope things get better, but last night was a tough night. Another puck goes right through his glove. I think the fourth goal, which was the backbreaker that he allowed it late in the second period, he probably should have made the save there. They didn't play great in front of him, though, either. Let's not forget that the defensive play was lacking a lot last night for Jack Campbell, for Edmonton. And look, Jack Campbell, I thought he played great against Tampa, and I thought it was a huge step in the right direction, especially the way he preserved that 1-goal lead late, and then to come back and have that game last night. And it's unfortunate, and the Oiler fans are pissed. They're not happy with his play. They're very critical of Campbell, and you hate to be that way with Jack, because Jack Campbell's one of the nicest people and teammates, universally thought of that way, by the way. One of the nicest people and teammates you'll ever ask for. He's the kind of person we all should aspire to be as human beings. Class act, very courteous of, he never says, "Oh, I played well." When they won, it was always, these guys played so well in front of me. He doesn't look for the accolades. He's always extra hard on himself when even he doesn't play that badly. He did that all the time in Toronto. Just say, I sucked when they lost a game, even though it probably wasn't his fault. He's just one of the nicest people in the league. That's a universal opinion. But at the same point in time, you sometimes have to separate the human being and the person from the performance and the player on the ice. And he's fighting it right now, Campbell. There's no question about it, Alex.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned it about how you said, he's this really nice guy, and he's a guy who kind of can harbor on himself a bit much, when he's not playing well. And essentially, I did a episode of Edgework earlier today with Rob Pizzola, and he's, obviously he's a Maple Leafs fan, so he definitely has seen Campbell, close a few times, and he said that basically, he wonders where his headspace is at when he goes through these slumps. He's had a up and down career for the most part, numbers wise, and like I said, I thought he would fare well in Edmonton because he was getting out of a same situation, if not worse, with Toronto. Having the playoff, doldrums and different things, but like I said, if he's kind of beating himself up a little bit, he's got to kind of shake his mindset and get things back on track between the years before he can really kind of get things settled on the ice. So I don't know what that's going to mean for him, but that's something that he's going to have to do. Thankfully, Stuart Skinner has been tremendous and stepping up and being one of the better backups so far in this first month of the season. Otherwise, Edmonton would be in some real serious trouble.
It's a shame, too, because you get the sense after the way he played against Tampa Bay, which I thought was Jack's best game of the year, if he steps up, plays well again against Carolina last night, you think he's going to get on a run. And now it's probably a situation where after last night, Jay Woodcroft's probably going to give Skinner the next start for the Edmonton Oilers. So it was a chance for him to get on a little bit of a roll for the Edmonton Oilers. Did not happen. And now we wonder if we're going to end up seeing Skinner moving forward a lot more often. All right, let's go to Friday's card. We got 4 games. Hall of Fame night in Toronto. This is the Hall of Fame game. The Pittsburgh Penguins taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Leafs minus 150 home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. Lots to digest here. First of all, we know the age-old theory sometimes with a team that's been sputtering and scuffling and mired in a deep losing streak and they finally snap out of it. Sometimes that can produce a run and a win streak in the other direction. So will that happen for the Penguins after finally getting off the schneid against Washington? That remains to be seen going into this game tonight against Toronto. The Leafs have played better. There's no question the last 3 games. Good competition, Boston, Carolina, and Vegas, and they get 5 out of 6 points. They beat Boston, they beat Carolina, and then they lose in overtime to a Vegas team that's red hot right now, and a Vegas team that's so incredibly good right now that even on the last game of a long road trip, they put it to Buffalo last night in the final game of that trip. So obviously Toronto has stepped it up. And the one thing about Toronto is we're finding this out about this team. They sometimes fall asleep, go through the motions, struggle against the weaker teams. They always seem to save some of their better hockey in the regular season for the good teams. I mean, this has become a repeated pattern for the Leafs. So I don't have a strong opinion on the side. I'd kind of lean Pittsburgh just because of the price and finally getting off the schneid. But they also have multiple defensemen potentially missing this game. Now, their depth defensemen, it's more their 5'6" D-men with Pierre-Olivier Joseph and Jan Ruda, both questionable. Both got injured against Washington on Saturday night. So we'll see, or on Wednesday night, rather. We'll see if they are in the lineup tonight. You could be looking at Mark Friedman and Chad Ruedel having to draw in on this blue line tonight for the Penguins. That could be a little bit of an adjustment. It looks like Casey DeSmith, who was the goalie of record, the goalie in net when they snapped the losing streak against Washington. He will be back in net tonight for the Penguins. Numbers aren't that bad, even though he's only got a 1-3 record, 2.80 goals against, .913 save percentage. Shalgren, once again in net for the Leafs, although both of their walking wounded goaltenders, Ilya Samsonov and Matt Murray, are both closing in on a return from injury for the Leafs. It's just a question of when going into this game. I lean Pittsburgh. Might get there with the over. In fact, I probably do like the over more than anything here, 6.5. But that's probably what I'm looking at. I'm just waiting for confirmation on the status of this Pittsburgh blue line. I probably will fire on the over 6.5, especially, again, if those 2 defensemen are out. Cluster injuries on the blue line are something I target for overs on a nightly basis. Alex, what do you think here, Penguins Leafs?
Yeah, I can't touch this total at all because even though, like I said, this screams like an over spot to Smith and net injuries on the blue line. Historically, these 2 teams have always played each other pretty tough. We've seen the under cash in 6 of the last 9 meetings between these 2 teams. Maple Leafs have gone under 9 of their last 13. Penguins have gone under 5 of their last 7. So the numbers conflict what we're seeing as far as personnel-wise. So what nothing to do with the total. We're going to take a look. I'm trying to learn your ways, Ian, of digging deep into the bargain bin. Looking at Alex Kerfoot to get a goal. I've seen his
All
high
right, I like it. You're
plus
learning the ways.
390
Yeah.
plus 390 earlier, but you can find like 345, 350 round. He's elevated up to the top line with Marner and Matthews. I think he might get some quality looks there. So that's the only play I really like in this spot.
I agree with that. I actually mentioned it. Now, it didn't pay off the other night, but no question about it. You're going to get someone in that plus 300 or more range for a guy playing top line minutes. It's worth a look. Same with Nick Robertson back in the lineup on the second line, trying to strike some of that magic that we had the first game that he played. The infamous, if you missed the Jay Rosehill episode, the infamous, he's trying to scramble to sign up at Bet365 minutes before the game just to bet Nick Robertson to score a goal. He did that night, and I think it's going to be a situation where you're going to see Robertson find the back of the net eventually. I find he is more noticeable on home ice too. Not that he played poorly on the road trip when he was playing for the Leafs earlier this year when they were out west and in that road trip, but I think Nick Robertson plays a little bit better at home. And I'm going to go way deep into the bargain bin from a Toronto standpoint because this guy, even though he's playing third, fourth line, he's had a lot of shots, a lot of chances. He's actually seventh on the team in expected goals, the entire team. He's seventh in expected goals. And that's, I'm going back to Cali Yarncroke for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Going back to him here in this game tonight at a plus 425 in some spots to score a goal. So again, getting the chances. He did score against Carolina on Sunday last week. So I definitely think that's a prop that is worth a sprinkle as well in this game. For Pittsburgh, I think Jason Zucker's the guy. Jason Zucker's starting to pick it up. You notice what he's done. He scored twice in the last 3 games. I think that's the guy that's got it rolling a little bit right now for the Penguins. So there's a few prop options from yours truly. And I like that Alex is taking his spin through the bargain bin as well in this game tonight. Tampa Bay, Washington. We got the Lightning minus 140 road favorites, 6 the total. I'm probably going to be on Tampa Bay. I'm just waiting for a couple of lineup confirmations. I mean, for me, it's just Washington's not a team you can back at the moment. It's just too banged up, too depleted. Obviously, they were the team that Pittsburgh beat to snap out of their losing streak on Wednesday night. I mean, it's still a mash unit, Alex, with Connor Brown, with and look at we talked about the record of Washington without TJ Oshie last year, how bad it was. The trajectory has been more of the same this year, struggling mightily to win games without TJ Oshie. He's still on IR. Tom Wilson's still on IR. Hagelin on IR. John Carlson actually might be back tonight, so keep an eye on that. But nobody else is. Connor Brown's out again. Dmitry Orlov looks like he's going to miss this game once again for the Capitals, and he's their best shutdown, stay-at-home defenseman that they've got. So it's definitely a spot where when you look at it, tough to back Washington right now, struggling to win games, just absolutely depleted. And here's Tampa Bay rolling in after a couple of day break, after a 3-2 loss to the to the Edmonton Oilers rather on Tuesday night. They're off a loss. We know usually we like to back Tampa off a loss. The last 3 tries that they lost a game, they lost to Philly, they bounced back, beat Florida. They had a 4-2 loss to LA. They bounced back from that, beat Anaheim, and then they had a shootout loss against Carolina, and they beat Buffalo in their next game. So we usually like Tampa Bay off a loss, and that's where I'm definitely going to probably be on Tampa Bay when it's all. I haven't locked it in yet because again I'm waiting for a confirmation with the lineups, but I'm sure I will be looking toward the Tampa Bay side. That's what I'm waiting on. I'm also waiting for Vasilevsky to be confirmed in net because I would expect him to be, although he hasn't been at his absolute best so far this year. It's kind of weird to see his goals against average hovering around 3, like it's 2.9. That's a little higher for him than usual, but Washington's just scuffling offensively with all of these injured parts right now. I mean, you look at during this rough 1-5 streak, I mean, they scored 2 against Carolina, 2 against Vegas, 1 against Detroit, 2 against Washington when the Coyotes beat them, 1 goal against Pittsburgh the other night. The only outburst they had was that win against Edmonton, and they scored 5. And it's not like Edmonton's been getting consistent defense and goaltending the last week or two. So, yeah, Tampa Bay for me here, and the price right now seems to be close to around minus 130 to minus 140 in that range. What do you think here, Alex? Lightning Capitals.
Yeah, I'm looking at the draw here at plus 350. I think this is going to be a real tight game. We've seen that before from these two teams going back. Each of the last 4 meetings between these two teams decided by a goal. 2 of them went into either overtime or a shootout. He said Washington's, I mean, they're just slower, they're older, the offense isn't there consistently, and Tampa hasn't been super impressive. I'm not really rushing to lay 140 with the Lightning right now, but they're getting their game together, which we kind of expected. This would be the time where they start stepping up and playing some better hockey. I think they do get the win here, but I think it goes longer than 60 minutes. So at plus 350, the draw is a good option there.
I would stick with Sonny Milano, too, for Washington. I mean, he's the one guy I would bet he's getting chances. He's getting a second-line minutes for the Capitals, so I don't mind to look toward him. Brandon Hagel, I've talked about repeatedly about how he has really fit in nicely with Kucherov and Point on the top line. Nick Paul is always worth a shot here. He's been pretty good lately. 3 goals in the last 6 games from him centering that second line for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So there's a couple of prop options that I would be looking at here for the Lightning in this game. I would, again, keep it light with the Washington props, though. I mean, I like Milano. That's about it, because of obviously the struggles that team has had to put the puck in the net lately. All right, San Jose, Dallas. We've got Dallas minus 220, home favorite, 6 the total in this game. Now, there's a lot to keep your eye on here. This is one of those days where, usually we know a lot of information. We have a lot of an idea who's in net, who's going to be in the lineup by now. But for Dallas, it's paramount in terms of who's starting in net. There are whispers that Jake Ottinger's closing in on a return and might actually return tonight and start in net for the Dallas Stars against San Jose. But if it's not him and it's Scott Wedgwood again, it completely changes the way I would attack this game. Here's where I would stand with it right now. If it's Ottinger back in this game, I would do a split between Dallas and regulation and also Dallas team total over. That's what I would look at here in this game, because the Sharks can't stop anything right now. Kakkonen has been caca in net, and he was again last night against the Blues. James Reimer hasn't been much better. Reimer's given up 15 goals in his last 4 starts. That's not very good. They're struggling defensively. They've been an over machine, San Jose. But if Ottinger's back, I'd prefer the Dallas side of things, the regulation line and the team total, rather than the full game over, because I hate betting full game overs with a quality goaltender like Ottinger, who's got a 1.4 goals against average and a 950 save percent, like incredible numbers before his injury. So if it's Ottinger, I kind of like Dallas in regulation and also that team total over. If it's Wedgwood in net once again and Ottinger's not quite ready to return, then I like the full game over 6 here in this game, and that's what I would look at. So it really is hinging upon who's going to be in net here for Dallas. As far as props go, there are a couple for Dallas that I'm looking at here in this game tonight. Look, I hear what IceX is saying in the chat. Matej Blumel is going to be, looks like, in the lineup, making his Stars debut. This is a guy that was in the Edmonton organization, actually, previously. 3rd-round pick, he was of the Oilers. Looks like he is going to make his NHL debut, taking the place of Denis Gurianov, who's out with the upper body injury. So they're going to give him second-line duty with Tyler Seguin and Mason Marchment. So they're giving him a spotlight showcase opportunity here right out of the gate. Matej Blumel here tonight in his NHL debut. 5 goals, 11 points in 9 AHL games this year, by the way, as well. So you're reading my mail, IceX. I definitely think that's a good player prop to take advantage of for sure. And the one thing about these young kids is they always are fired up to try to make that great first impression. There's no question about that. And you can get him plus 500 at Caesars to score. Caesars is a really good book too for goal scorer props, and plus 500 is out there for him to score a goal playing on that second line right now for the Dallas Stars. He's definitely, I think, the top option. I wouldn't argue Mason Marchment. I wouldn't even argue Jamie Benn, because he's finally gotten it going a little bit. And actually, they dropped the price on him because of his early season struggles. But he's finally started to find some ability offensively for the Dallas Stars. I know I've mentioned Wyatt Johnston's name a couple of times in terms of he has been a force offensively, just 19 years old, straight up from junior, and he's already got 4 goals on the season. So I don't mind Johnston. I don't mind even Delandria or Ben. That third line is really gelled pretty well together. But definitely my top player prop for Dallas is that young kid making his NHL debut just because of the price, and he's going to get that opportunity here. Second line, Matej Blumel at plus 500. And I'm looking at the combinations as well. I don't know if he'll get power play time, but still, second line 5-on-5 good enough to take a shot, in my opinion, at plus 500 for him to find the back of the net. Alex, what do you think here, San Jose, Dallas?
Yeah, I'm just going with Stars team total over 3.5. I got that at minus 120 earlier. And like I said, I don't want to deal with the back and forth of it. Is it Ottinger or is it Wedgwood? I know I can trust on Dallas to score 4 goals against this San Jose, the horrific goaltending tandem right now, he said, and just bad overall defense. So just going to play it safe there, go with Stars team total over. Like I said, makes obviously a lot more sense. We'll probably see that number move from 6 to 6.5 if it is Wedgwood confirmed later in that.
Liking the team total, Alex, here, over 3.5 with the Dallas Stars in this game. I want to point out, too, this is an important thing I want to mention, and I mentioned this with Jimmy the Bag earlier on the show I did today. This spot of this home game off a long road trip spot, it's not that automatic fade that it's been in years past that I've noticed. Florida is another example of that the other night against Carolina. This hasn't been that automatic, let's fade this team situation. LA, I think, is another example. Came home off their road trip, won. I mean, there's been multiple examples of that lately. So it's not that we totally disregard a tried and true strategy for the last several years, but it's just right now we're in one of those zones right now where the home team is actually faring a little bit better than you would expect, returning home off a long road trip. And you know what the reason I think for that is? They're not getting just one day. Some of these teams that are having the success, they're getting 2 days, 3 days sometimes following the end of that road trip when they play that first home game, and that makes a lot of difference.
Right, and that's always been the thing. The spot has never been just blind first game at home for most teams. Now, some teams like San Jose, it is. But like you said, you have to kind of look at how many days off in between, or a spot. I know we like to look at within that scheduling system is if the team has a couple of days in between, off before that last road game. And then that's when you kind of see, the team try to pick up and play a little bit better. Then they come home, and that's when the fatigue kind of sets in and hits them. So looking at those off days within a long road trip and after the road trip also is a big factor of that handicap.
Yeah, no question about that. And I bring that up because Dallas is obviously returning home off a road trip here in this game. But they're returning off of the game where they didn't play well against Winnipeg. They've had 2 days off. That's why I'm willing to like them. And I'm willing to like them here, too, because of also who they're playing. And that's a San Jose team that's obviously in a bad way right now. All right, we got Minnesota, Seattle. Final game here on this Friday card. Minnesota minus 120, road favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. Certainly, if you believe in situationals, Minnesota got humbled and embarrassed, really, by Seattle at home. Turnaround, they play Seattle again a week later. You'd think they'd want to play a lot better, and they probably will play a lot better. But at the same point in time, I can't get away from what's been working here for Seattle. They've been scoring goals. Their offense has been terrific. Like I said, with Schwartz playing as well as he is, Wenberg's been a revelation on the top-line center spot. I mean, this is the best hockey I've ever seen out of him. And this is a guy that's had a lot of potential going back to Columbus and Florida, and he's finally playing like it. Obviously, Bjorkstrand and Burakovsky were brought in to bolster this offense. And this is now, all of a sudden, they're actually a fringe top 10 team in scoring in the National Hockey League, Seattle. And they have scored 3 or more goals in 10 straight games, the Seattle Kraken, which leads me to my bet in this game, which is Seattle team total over 3. Minus 120 at BetMGM. And again, BetMGM gives you those team totals with half goal increments. I'd like the security of 3 rather than the 3.5 at plus money. So over 3 minus 120. That's what I'm rocking with here. I mean, that's 10 straight games. They've scored a minimum of 3 goals. I think they've got the potential to do that. It's definitely Minnesota revenge. Minnesota finally got their offense going after back-to-back shutout losses to the aforementioned Kraken. And of course, against LA, they got shut out by the Kings to start this road trip, but they busted out with a 4-1 win against Anaheim. Although I use the term busted out loosely. They did benefit from a 5-on-3, extended 5-on-3, which Kaprizov capitalized on. And 4 goals against Anaheim's good, but Anaheim's given up that number of goals to everybody they play lately. So you also don't want to overreact too much that, wow, all of a sudden everything's right again with the Minnesota Wild offensively. So I like the Kraken team total over 3. I mean, it's just they've been automatic to score at least 3. Many of these games they've gotten to 4 and 5. That's what I'm going to go with here. What do you think, Alex? Minnesota, Seattle.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at the offensive aspect too. I'm going with the first period over. I like both these teams, their style and speed against one another. We saw the Kraken. I missed a huge opportunity to grab a really good number with that first period over the other night against Nashville. They just lit up UC Soros in that contest. And, like I said, Marc-Andre Fleury's been playing better on the road than at home so far. But that still doesn't mean necessarily, and like I said, we still don't know if he's going to get the start. It could be Philip Gustafson as well. Either way, I feel comfortable enough for these two teams to have good pace and tempo early. So $1.40, that's a cheap enough price to go with the over 1.5.
There you go, which is good. That's a good price these days. Remember, that used to be, a price that's a big price. Now,
Yeah.
-1. Now you love a -140 for over 1.5 in the first period. And that is exactly what's available here for this game. As far as the player props go, it seems to be that same core group that's scoring right now for Seattle. Wenberg is certainly worth a look. Beniers, Schwartz has been good. Eberle has started to get it going. Burakovsky, even sprinkle a little on Morgan Geekie, because even though he's on the fourth line, we've seen him chip in offensively of late. For Minnesota, you've got, obviously, do you go back to the well with Beckman? I know Terry Edelman was shouting from the heavens, Adam Beckman, he's going to play. And he did play, and he played on the second line against Anaheim the other night, and they've got him listed there again. He did have 2 shots on goal against the Anaheim Ducks, and he actually got very close to scoring on one of those chances the other night. So Adam Beckman, I certainly think that's not a bad look in terms of a player prop here for Minnesota. Again, you're getting a very good price on that. In fact, I will find out just right about now what you can get with Beckman. Yeah, plus 500 at Caesar. Another plus 500 spot for a second-line player, much like we talked about with Matej Blumel making his debut for the Dallas Stars tonight. So, yeah, definitely looks like a bargain bin to the nth degree goal scorer player prop, right up my alley right there. No question about that for this Minnesota and Seattle game. All right, there we go. Great stuff. That is the Friday card, just 4 games. Reminder, patreon.com/Ice Guys, the daily card of our plays that we give out on the show are posted there each day. We've got totals charts, which Chris Otto helps us out with. We've got goalie depth charts as well, courtesy of Alex B. Smith. More bonus content on the way in the weeks and the months to come. We really are going to crank up the bonus content post-football season. We're going to drop some stuff here and there. November, December, holiday season's always busy. But once football's done and we get past the Super Bowl, February beyond, we're really cranking up all things Ice Guys. More bonus content than ever before on the Patreon page. We're going to be doing weekly live betcasts for the rest of the season after the Super Bowl. Right now, we're just doing monthly betcasts. And by the way, if you haven't heard, Tuesday, November 29th will be our next live betcast, 7 p.m. Eastern. So that's a couple weeks away. So make sure you join us for another betcast November 29th. So patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month. Well worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we got plenty of cool things coming in. Just some lot of fun stuff as well. As it's going to be all hockey driven, of course, but we got some just different things on the aspect of gambling, different aspect takes on the game as well. So definitely sign up and check it out. Like I said, and you get the card every day listed as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? You might be right, Terry, with you're right, because Marcus Foligno is back. See, the site I use has Foligno day-to-day still. So that's why they still have Beckman up on the second line. But you're right. He's probably shuffling down the lineup if Marcus Foligno returns for the Minnesota Wild. Good point made there on that. But I still think worth a sprinkle because he was buzzing around the net. He may not get the minutes, but he may only need a couple minutes, get that couple of chances, and to find the back of the net in this game tonight. Great stuff. Well, again, we got a huge show and a huge card as always tomorrow on Saturday, noon Eastern. So make sure you join us for that. Best bets to wrap up this edition of the show. Alex, what do you like for best bet?
Yeah, head out to the Pacific Northwest. We got Minnesota and Seattle battling. I like that first period over 1.5 minus $1.40. Like I said, Seattle just coming with a blistering pace offensively. The Wild need to get that offense rolling. Like I said, okay, they got the 4 goals, but it wasn't easy pickings for them to do that against Anaheim. They need to try and step up here tonight and get that offense rolling early and often. So we'll go Wild Kraken first period over 1.5 minus $1.40 is my best bet.
All right, there you go. Wild and Kraken Over 1.5, -140 first period. Best bet for Alex B. Smith in that one. My best bet is because I'm waiting on the Ottinger news. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a split best bet. So half and half, if you will. Team total, Dallas Stars over 3.5, -124, and over 6 full game. Because who knows if it's Ottinger, the full game over could still hit. I mean, maybe he's off his game a little bit, first game back after a long time. But regardless, I cannot shy away from this over streak with San Jose. I've been on it a bunch. Another game goes over last night against St. Louis. St. Louis's offense was struggling, and suddenly it's amazing how San Jose was the cure that ailed them. And I think definitely you'll see goals tonight. But I'm going to split it up. A split best bet. Dallas team total over 3.5, -124, and also San Jose Dallas over 6, even money. Best bets here for this Friday NHL card. That'll wrap it up for this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Friday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we are back here, the only show that is back with you on weekends, to break down a massive Saturday card, noon Eastern, another edition of the Ice Guys presented by National Hockey Now.